Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am back here doing a tutorial video on a more of an advanced subject on Mountain Blade Warband Floris edition. The link to the Floris mod will be in the description, so go ahead and check that out. Really fun mod. Okay, so here we're going to be, in this tutorial we're going to be talking about how to become king and how to keep your rule intact. Okay, so there's a few points I need to make in order to explain this thoroughly. The first point is, how do you become king in the first place? Well, that's pretty simple. To become king, all you need is a decent amount of army, such as what I have here. Your troops can be whatever you want them to be. So basically, get a decent amount size of troops. I would recommend trying to seize a castle instead of a town. This is a town, this is a castle up here. And usually towns have more than 168 troops, but since for this tutorial I have already became king and everything, so I'm just going to talk you through. That's all you really need to do. Just get a decent sized force, go besiege a castle or town if you're feeling lucky. In order to do so though, you will have to have at least a -1 relation with the faction you want to start out with. So for example, since I'm here in the Khajiit Khanate area, I have, before I could even start with this whole king thing, I had to have a negative relation with the Khajiit Khanate. And this only works if you're not tied to another king. So before this, I was tied to the kingdom of the Viziers, and it won't let me become king unless I either betray them or and lose honor, or I go and ask politely to leave the service of the king, go on and begin the assault on whatever castle or town I want that I have negative relation with for the faction. So the next thing is, once you have the castle and your kingdom is established, you need to maintain that kingdom. So here's the next thing. In order to recruit more people to your faction and to your overall, to maintain your kingdom and help protect it and your fiefs and stuff, you need to have something called right to rule. So in this tutorial, my right to rule is 99. What that means is the higher this is, the more likely the chances that you will have lords from another faction joining your cause. But this alone doesn't make it stand out. No, you have to also convince them to betray their liege and join yours through through some dialogue choices. And those dialogue choices usually start off with, you have to say, how do you feel about your current liege? And it's 50-50 whether to say, long may they live, and you can't convert them until they stop saying that. And if you do, it will say, oh, I'm fed up with king, insert king name here, and they'll say they were mistreated some way of whatever, and then you can say, I would ask you to pledge for my right to rule, and then they'll ask, why should I support you in your right to rule? And then you have some dialogue choices, which is self-explanatory, and you can choose any of the choices and try to make them come over to your kingdom or your faction. Alright, the second thing which is important is fief management. And in order to do fief management properly, you're going to need some sort of income and make sure you can pay your armies and stuff and your garrisons, because as a king you will have several things to need to manage. Alright, so first Let us go to the castle. When you have a fief, this may take a few minutes or so, but you will get a chamberlain to help manage your finances. So this guy will become with your own treasury and stuff. You can say, let's inspect the treasury, and for my treasury I have 82,045 dinars to spend as I wish. So you can either pay into the treasury if you've recovered some extra money in your travels and you would like to pay it into the kingdom's treasury, or you can withdraw money from the treasury if you're low on funds to upgrading your troops and stuff. Also, this button right here, I would like to manage fief improvements, will become a pretty reliable button to use and system. Because I only own 2 fiefs right now, this is what I'm limited to. But let's say I click on Nara. The town, I have the improvements of a barracks, which helps me recruit better trained men when I recruit people up my town. And I am currently building a prison tower, and it will tell you how many days. So let's go to Rydar Castle. Alright, so this one, I have the barracks, but I don't have anything building. So let's go prisoner tower, and then it'll say, are you sure you want to build it? It will cost 4,900 dinars. It will tell you where you're going to build it, and then how long it's going to take. The amount of time it will take will usually depend on the engineering skill that you have, or somebody in your party of your companions has. And then it will tell you how much money you have in your treasury. So for this, I say why not. Alright, so also you can change a tax rate depending on the fiefs and stuff that you wish. Now, I think, I might be wrong on this, but I think the regular default tax rate is low, but I'm not too sure on that. Somebody can correct me in that in the comments. But I do believe that's what the default one is. So on to the next thing, managing your vassals. Okay, now that's a little bit tricky. See, I have already 3 vassals that have joined my cause. Let's go talk to one of them, shall we? Alright, so this vassal is Baro Hadia, or Haida, however you pronounce it. I'd really butcher some of these names, but so the relation will determine what's the likelihood of you converting them if they're not already on your faction. But once they are on your faction, you'll be needing to supply them with fiefs, such as villages, castles, and towns. And supplying them with certain things will either make that go up or go down, depending on who you give your unowned fief to. So, say for example, I give a fief to Cabal here, but Hadia or Haida wants the fief as well. So there is a democratic kind of system in place where the majority lords will vote, all the lords or vassals in your kingdom will vote on who should receive a fief. And that can be chief minister. You can either assign one of your companions to do it, you can assign your wife, you have options here. You can choose who's the marshal, you can wish to indict a disloyal vassal for treason. I would stay away from this option unless they have very low relations, like they're in the negative 30 up, maybe even negative 40s, because your vassals can and will betray you if it gets too low and they're very unhappy with you. Another thing which is also very important is holding feasts. Feasts are almost essential to being a king. If you are not the one hosting a feast now and then, you may find your finances a little bit low, and your relations may be dwindling. So feasts are relatively a good thing. So basically, to hold a feast, you need to make sure you have the proper amount of required items in your uh, larder, like ale, oil, wine, spices, and various types of foods. Also, the more various types of foods, as well as the amount of those, same goes with the drinks of like ale and wine, will depend on how great your feast will be and how much relation you'll receive once the feast has ended. So for cheap ale may not have the same effect as regular ale or well-made ale. Same goes for food and wine and stuff, as well as the spices. Spices are usually the most important part, well, one of the most important parts of holding a feast. So since we are currently at war, we go to our sovereign relations and see who we are at war with. Right now we are at war with the Khajiits, or Khajiits, however you say it. And so the war times, they'll go around raiding villages and probably start besieging castles and stuff. Any person who's made it this far and should pretty much know what happens in time of war. So, in order to stop this, you can also hire patrols from your military counselor who can tell you how the war is going. You want information on some settlement. If you have a prisoner that of enemy kingdom and or any prisoner really, you can choose to release them. You can ask him to give you a report on the overall status. You can take a look at the armory. You can ask about recruiting more troops or training troops. And you can talk about patrols, and you can move troops around from castle to town or town to castles, yada yada. And these things will be essential, really. The patrols, that's debatable. I haven't really needed to use patrols much, considering I've been low on funds mostly, and patrols cost quite a bit to keep. But if you do have the funds and you can afford to hire a patrol, it's probably a good thing to do so now and again. To recruit people is probably the most vital thing you can do. But be wary. If you're just starting out as king, like in this tutorial that I am, you might want to use troops that you're not the troops of a not warring faction. And this is because the morale. If you're fighting like say you're using Khajiit troops to fight the Khajiit Khanate. If I use those troops against them, their morale will plummet, and I will lose people from desertion and all chaos breaks loose because they're fighting their own kin. So in order to prevent that, fight kingdoms such as the Khajiits with like Swadian troops or something. Also, if you don't want to wait till a faction or a kingdom is completely gone and destroyed, I would suggest looking around for a person named Sigmund, I believe. He will sell you freelancer recruits, which are basically hired mercenaries, but they cost quite a bit less, but more than a regular faction troop, but a little less than the regular mercenaries, I do believe. So he'll cost you roughly, I think, 10,000 to 20,000 dinars to have him stay in your actual castle or town. He will travel to whatever castle or town that you are visiting at the moment, so keep that in mind. Alright, so making peace with kingdoms is also important, obviously, because if you are at war with every kingdom, then you're going to be completely exhausted from fighting one kingdom or two kingdoms, and it's just chaos. So, one way to get your right to rule up is, well, there's two ways that I know of. One is asking one of your companions to go out and say, spread your claims to the rule of your sole noble rule or whatever by any means. The second way is by making peace or making war or negotiating with people, converting lords. Those kind of things will also increase your right to rule. So if you successfully convert a lord to your kingdom, you will be increasing the right to rule. So that is a brief description on the whole becoming a king and maintaining the king, and to make sure your kingdom stays intact for a while. When you first start off, you might have a lot of kingdoms try to go with war to you, but don't worry, just hold out as long as you can, and they'll eventually make peace, or you make peace with them. If they don't want to make peace with you, there is an option to pay money or pay a certain amount of dinars to do so. And the diplomacy in this game, you can have peace, you can go to a non-aggression treaty, you can have a trade agreement, you can have a defensive pact, which is not an alliance, but they will help defend your territories, but they won't actually go join a war you're currently in. The alliance is self-explanatory, and basically that's all there is to know at this point in time. So I thank you for watching. If this video tutorial was helpful, please let me know by either leaving a like, subscribe if you wish, and or leave a comment in the comment section for any further questions, concerns, or just to tell me I'm either doing good or bad, and let me know. Feedback is always welcomed. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you then.